What's up, everybody? Thralls here once again. I'm Necrotic.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have yet another album review for you, and one that we've been anticipating. And, well, as songs came out, we noticed that this band had definitely taken a bit of a change in musical direction, I guess we'll say. We're definitely going to get into it, because we're going to go over to the latest offering from Baest, or however you say that. I know it's Danish for beast, and that's easier to say. Anyway, the album is Colossal. It also comes out on the 15th of August on Century Media Records. It's been formed in 2015 in Denmark. This is their fifth full length. I've been a fan since their debut, Dance Macabre. We reviewed their last one, Necrosapiens, which was an absolute banger. Two of their albums have been year-enders for me. Their second album, Venom, was incredible. The song Gula might have had the heaviest single chuggy riff ever.
My God.
I know. And their last EP was an absolute banger too. So naturally we were hyped up about this one. And granted, Necrosapiens, I will say, was a little bit of a change. They kind of ditched the HM2 tone, which admittedly we were a little upset about, but they still had a good beefy death metal tone. It was still flat out death metal. This one, I mean, it's kind of death metal. It kind of is, but it's also something else.
Yeah, it's such a weird record to describe, and we're definitely going to get into that. Yeah, I've been a fan of this band since the beginning. It's kind of hard not to be. The immediate bloodbath comparisons from the rip, it just made it hard to not love. And this record is not that. But I don't want to start like that. I don't want to say it's not that, because this record is still really good, and we're going to get into that. But it is vastly different.
Yeah. I would say that somewhere along the line, in between their last EP and this album, they got bit by Teen Wolf. And it's turned them into a fiercely 80s metal / hard rock loving band, and it has been infused into their straight up death metal style. And admittedly, the results are kind of cool, but this album is so different from any of their albums that it's kind of hard to digest. Tonally, this doesn't have the over the top evil foreboding sound. This album sounds like, it wants to party. It wants to hang out. It wants to go to the Sunset Strip.
The very first word I wrote in this entire thing was, what? Immediately, classic heavy metal mixed with, Lamb of God, mixed with, Mastodon at times. I'm going to preface by saying the musicianship on this record is top-notch. I never doubted for an instant that these guys couldn't play their instruments, because I've been listening to them for years. They can obviously play, but just immediately you're just hit in the face with this is if 2025 was 1985.
Yeah, I mean, the opening track, Stormbringer, comes in with, not the tone that I would ever expect from this band, but here we are. It's a very 80s kind of thrash, heavy metal, almost hard rock tone. It kicks off with some notes that would not sound completely out of place on an AC/DC album, and then gets into a mid-tempo stomp, but with a very Lamb of God kind of groove metal sort of aspect to it. And that's almost kind of the bass line, 80s metal and a lot of groove metal with pockets of death metal. There are still moments on here where you get a lot of that older sound, Mouth of the River and the title track in particular, pretty damn heavy.
Mouth of the River is straight up this band. And it still actually kind of flirts with the 80s in pockets, but the difference here is it's predominantly death metal with pockets of 80s, whereas the rest of the record is pockets of death metal with predominantly 80s.
Yeah, songs like In Loathe and Love, Imp of the Perverse, that sounds like a fun one. That sounds like a nickname they gave Gilbert Gottfried back in the day. Yeah, you get these really wild transitions from riffs that, just reek of Judas Priest or Scorpions or Def Leppard. And I would even throw in Rat in there too, because there's some hair metal kind of glammy moments in there too.
100%.
But they'll transition into sections that, have more aggro riffs, some blast beats, more double time drums. The only thing that really retains everything from the previous albums are the vocals. The vocals are still very much, Baest vocals, which, very Ackerfeltian. Like, he's still got that giant roar, and he carries it throughout this, no matter the stylistic change. And this shifts around a lot. Like, every one of these songs is kind of like its own little riffy adventure. Like Misfortunate Son, and that's S-U-N, stomps in with a big 80s metal gallop, like a riff on there that almost kind of like reeks of like Jake E. Lee era Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah.
And, it kind of builds up a lot of momentum and then takes this really interesting shift to almost like Blackened territory. Yeah,
it is.
Like, get the vocals sound a little bit more like snarly, a little bit more cold. There's some dissonant riffs in there, like a stomping double time D beat. It's like someone dropped off Dark Throne on the Sunset Strip and wished them the best of luck. Like, there you go, guys.
There's even an instrumental on here, Light the Beacons, which a very like epic and triumphant and big bright melodies. Got a lot of Rush undertones though too, like especially in the drum work.
Dude.
But this reminds me of something that you would see in an 80s montage. 100%.
Oh, dude, 100%. Like it's montage rock with like a proggy sort of flavor. You get this really cool build up with these big, like epic, majestic leads and these big accents, and you hear the open concert toms. Like, oh, well, hell yeah. And then, like, dude's drum work is very much like Neil Peart. Like, he's just kind of got those Neil Peart gallops. The fills are exquisite on that song. But it has that 80s flair. And some of that is kind of down to the production, too. This was actually done by Tua Madsen, who actually he's produced, like, a lot of my favorite, like, Melodeath albums back in, like, the mid-2000s. But everything sounds crisp. It sounds rich. And, like, there are points where the guitars sound bludgeoning, but other points they sound shimmering and beautiful. Props to that, but when he goes for that 80s sound, like, it's 100% fucking got it.
Oh, it's completely captured. I have no issues with the mix on this record. I have no issue with the musicianship on this album. Like, dude, the riffs are fucking solid. All of them. And the transitions are perfect. It's very liquidic. Like, it flows so natural. Like, you'd never guess that these guys had that in them to do and to do so well. But it's weird.
Yeah, I mean, it is. And, like, the transitions still come very frequently. You get a lot of, like, dynamics in the songs. Like, I mean, Mouth of the River, I mean, it's beating you down with, like, probably the heaviest riffs in the album, but it also still, throws in, like, some cool thrashy nods. And it does it well. Like, there's no point on here where I feel like this album lost any momentum. And with as much as they're gambling with their sound, like, there were definitely points where I feel like they could have missed. Like, King of the Sun, which was the first song that I heard and I watched the video for, like, man, is this the same band? They all look like the same people. But maybe not. A lot of, like, fierce Judas Priest vibes on there.
Megadeth.
Yeah, like, it's got a cowbell in it. It's 80s as fuck. And they even threw in a guest vocalist on there. One Jesper Binzer, who plays for a band called Dad. I guess it's a rock band from Denmark that's been around since the 80s. I mean, what better way to capture an 80s rock feel than get an old school 80s rocker?
Well, right, and he, his vocals are obviously very different. He's got more of that kind of like raspy, clean tone bark to him, and like, that's the thing about a majority of these songs is they get so melodic at points where, like, clean vocals would actually work. Like, if you were going for full-bore 80s rock or 80s thrash in this case, like, clean vocals would fit that, but they're all death growled. So it just makes it such an interesting and, like, weird dynamic. Like, me personally, like, even though I grew up in the 80s, I didn't grow up on 80s music, and I probably would have got into 80s music more if it would have had growls in it, but at that time, that was unheard of, so it's like hearing something you kind of always wanted to hear, and finally hearing it and going, well, that's cool, but I get where else it wouldn't have been cool. So it's weird.
Yeah, I mean, if it weren't for, like, some of the heavier vocals in some of these songs, like, certain songs just have, like, such a ferocious 80s vibe. Again, back to, like, Misfortunate Son, like, the way that song opens, I mean, it sounds like, the ghost of Tawny Katan should be crawling across the hood of my car.
Yeah.
And then he starts growling. Oh, no, we're back to, death metal again. And while this is, like, a stylistic change, and it definitely feels... and I hate using the word because it's a dirty word in metal sometimes for some people, accessible. I wouldn't call this a sellout album because I don't feel like they're trying to go for like a mass appeal. Like this just feels like this is what they wanted to do. They wanted to write a love letter to the 80s, but also still try to retain elements of their sound. I do feel like maybe they wrote too long of a letter and didn't retain enough of their sound because like you get pockets of it. You get pockets where it gets really heavy. Again, the title track, it's got some really, biting, almost Slayer-ish sections on there. I was like, yeah, that's the 80s that I really like.
Yep. In Loathe and Love, even the last track, Depraved World, again, you're back to the 80s, but I mean, there's some really cool syncopated gallops in there. It's jam-packed full of excellent groove. It's got a really cool slow-down transition. I don't think necessarily that they're going to alienate their entire fan base. I think what's going to happen is a lot of people are going to be like, this is good, but not necessarily what I was looking for. But at the same time, I think it's going to placate to enough of the old heads that are going to be like, well, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
This is kind of a take on the 80s that I didn't really think was there.
And it'd be different if it wasn't, like, well executed. Like, all of this is well executed. And in terms of, like, the 80s sort of sound they have in here, they do cover a pretty wide swath. Like, you get the more, like, straight ahead, like, 80s heavy metal, like, like the Judas Priest kind of stuff. You also get the stuff that borders more on, like, hard rock. Like, there's stuff in here that reminded me of Rat or Whitesnake. And you get, like, some of the heavier 80s stuff. Like, again, Colossus has, like, a very Slayer-ish, like, double time section on there. And Depraved World, honestly, I kind of heard, like, a little bit of Merciful Fate on there. Like, it's got an 80s vibe, but it's a dark 80s vibe. It's more sinister, more occult sounding, but they balance it out with, like, really good, just awesome riff work and melodies. And, the leads on here are very dynamic, too, and they change around like the songs do. Like, you get some leads that are just pure 80s shred. Next one kind of has like a hard rock, kind of like sleazy swagger to it. So all of this is executed really well. But again, I feel like this could alienate the fans a little bit. I mean, this could end up being a divisive album. It's one of those like love or hate albums, and I can't say either one, person who loves or hates this album is wrong. It's all a matter of opinion there. But I will say, like, in terms of, like, how this is executed, it's done really, really well. There isn't a riff on here that I didn't like. And, I mean, the song construction is great. Maybe they were just tired of being compared to Bloodbath. I could think of worse bands to be compared to.
Sure.
Like, a ton of them. But I kind of get it. Like, a lot of people kind of looked at them like a Bloodbath tribute band. I kind of did too. Like the first time I heard Cross Whore, I was like, holy shit, this sounds like Bloodbath. Purchase.
Right, exactly.
And that was it. That was all it took. And, now hearing this, I mean, you could argue they're kind of forging their own identity, but you could also argue that they're forging a lot of identities here. None of this is basic. They didn't water down their songwriting at all. It's still very dynamic, lots of riff changes. I am a little worried, though, that if they keep pushing more towards this direction, like the big 80s rock hooks and, all that, and, kind of, doing what they're doing here, whittling down the death metal elements and extreme metal elements, they might end up alienating their vocalist. Like, I mean, he could sing. I don't know. I heard him do a spoken word part in here.
Right.
But he maintains this growl on here the entire time. Like, there wasn't a point where he tried to do like a sing-songy, chorus or verse or anything like that. And it would have fit. And that's the thing. These guys write riffs that have good melodic hooks to it to the point where you could argue, well, having like a melodic singer in there, it might not be a terrible idea. So I don't know. Like this might end up being a big transitional album. Who knows?
At the same time, though, too, if you get a more melodic singer and you replace their current lead singer, right, then you completely erase the past of this band, because you typically can't have both. I mean, you can sometimes. I mean, looking at you, Opeth. To completely erase the past of this band, I think would be not the greatest move. Yeah,
I mean, this band went to like playing like big festivals and like televised events pretty quickly with their old sound. So, man, I don't know what the future holds. It all depends kind of on the next album. For right now, we can just say that this is, maybe an experimental album. Maybe the next one's going to be kind of back to what they do. Or, again, they push forward. It kind of depends on how this one's received, I think.
Since they've been on Century Media since the beginning, right? Is this a contractual obligation? Like, would this be the last album on Century Media before they went elsewhere? And the label was like, all right, you guys got to put out something. And they were like, we're shopping elsewhere. And they were like, well, you got to put out something. And they were like, all right, fuck you. I'm not saying that's a thing. I mean, it could be that they just wanted to pay homage to the 80s. Because you got to look at it this way, too. A lot of these like newer bands within the last, say, decade or so, a majority of them at least sit right around our age bracket or somewhere, in there. So the 80s is still a very prevalent thing, a time where a lot of musicians cut their teeth on, right? So maybe you just want to flirt with that a little bit and have some fun. I don't doubt for a minute that they didn't have any fun doing this album. It sounds like they had a good time, and you can hear it in the songs.
I mean, fifth album, it might be the last one on a first contract.
I
don't know. But they did have a lot of fun. And again, these songs are creative and catchy. Imp of Perverse, there's like moments where 80s and 90s kind of meet there. Like, there's Ozzy-ish moments 100%. On there. And then like 90s death metal and almost kind of like stoner grunge riffs.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I know overall I like this. And I know I wanted to not like it because it changed a band that I already loved so much, but I can't fault it. In terms of experimenting and changing their sound, they did it really well, and I can't call this a flat out sellout album because it's not glitzy and poppy and sing-songy and abandoning all the heaviness. It's still really good, and it's still pretty damn heavy. So overall, I'm going to give this 3.5 stars. Some of it doesn't gel as well as other points. Some of the points that it's way more melodic. The vocals feel kind of out of place now. But for the most part, these guys just know how to do riff changes so damn well. The songs, again, are solid. They flow really well. Loaded with hooks. Great leads. The instrumental on here is an absolute banger. I love the rush nods on there. And for the most part, I'd say they do a pretty good job about not laying on an 80s moment too long before throwing in something that's just a tad heavier. The heavier songs like Colossus and Mouth of River do stand out a little bit more to me overall, but they also kind of feel like they're on a bit of an island at points compared to some of the other material in here. But it's well executed. It's just really catchy and really fun. And I still really enjoy it, even though I still kind of want the old Bloodbath sound. I don't know. It's good. It's good. It's worth checking out. It's just very different. Do not go into this expecting to hear anything remotely like the first two albums.
Right. I also agree on the 3.5, and I was in the same boat, dude. When this started, I was like, what the hell? What the hell is happening? I compared it to Death and Roll. I compared it to NASCAR rock and dad rock and I mean, because I wasn't prepared for it. It's catchy and it's tight, but initially it wasn't what I wanted. As the record went on though, and I kind of got used to what they were doing, the songs became more entertaining, and I was suddenly not as pissed off about the fact that I wasn't getting the band that I'm used to. And I was more intrigued by what they were doing. And they do it so fucking well, you guys. I can't state that enough. Both of us are pretty unanimous on the fact that they really nail 80s heavy metal and old school thrash. And it's done really well. The songs move incredibly well. The transitions are awesome. It's not this band, but it is, but it's not. This would have been easily a 4-star record if it was another band.
Yeah.
But it's this band, so I have to try to rate this band on what this is, and this is not what I'm used to, but it's not bad.
They could have scored Big Trouble in Little China with this.
100%.
It would have fucking worked.
It would have been awesome. It's different. Like we said, don't go into this expecting, Bloodbath or mind-numbingly heavy death metal. I would still say give it a chance, because I think it's really worth it.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. And if you were new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We also have memberships. They are only 99 cents, and our lone perk is doing a members-only live stream, which we promise we will get back to. We just got to find some time. But memberships are the main way to support the channel, and there is a join button down there for you to snort a rail of cocaine off of and watch an episode of Miami Vice at the same time, too. I don't know. It was the most 80s thing I could think of. I already used Big Trouble in Little China. That is the most 80s thing ever.
That's fairly 80s right there, yeah. And if you ever wonder about our time, full transparency, it's 4:21 in the morning right now. We work as hard as we can. We do it for you guys. Tons of stuff coming your way. More album reviews, of course. Discography rankings. We will get to At the Gates, I promise. Like, this fucked up shit in our lives needs to quit happening. And once it does, we will get there. We have in tandem with that the Thralls greatest hits that go with the discographies, where we pick a bunch of our favorite songs out of those albums. It's pretty neat. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
We have multiple discussion forums. We have even non-members live streams, which are equally as stupid as the members live streams. But yeah, all this stuff that we do here at Thralls of Metal, we do for you guys because we appreciate you guys being a part of this channel. Without you guys, this wouldn't be nearly as fun as it is, and we appreciate you guys chatting and talking and commenting and all the wonderful shit that you do. We couldn't do it without you. Thank you.
Yeah, you guys absolutely rule. Tons of content coming your way. So one more big thank you because you guys are awesome, and we will catch you later.